everybody, and welcome to another video here on Philly Sports Network. I hope you've all had a great weekend. Unlike the Philadelphia Eagles, who I'm sure had quite a grilling from Nick Sirianni after dropping a 35-0 loss against the New England Patriots on Thursday night. It wasn't pretty. If you're in the watch along, you'll understand just how ugly it was. But the team have got to move forward. They face the Jets next Saturday. Have got to get the roster down in that time. I could sit here and talk about a few things from that game, such as how good Devontae Smith looked. I could sit here and potentially discuss Jalen Reagor. I could look at Zach McPherson playing out of position and being bullied, and how the Eagles should learn their lesson from Avonte Maddox. But all of that can change. It's still preseason. But something came up earlier this week, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of moving on from Derek Barnett. And I know I've been hammering this home all off season, and the team has appeared very reluctant to move on from the Tennessee product, but there might finally be a situation where the stars are aligning for there to be one more blockbuster trade in the books before we start the regular season. New York Jets were dealt a cruel blow recently, finding out that Carl Lawson, who they'd only just signed to a monster 3-year deal, had torn his Achilles and was out for the season. And there really isn't much in the way of edge depth on that roster. The defensive line is stacked inside. You've got guys like Sheldon Rankins carrying the weight, but on the outside, Vinny Curry's one of the guys. But opposite, it's been a ton of undrafted guys, and outside of Ronald Blair, who reunites with Robert Saleh this offseason, there isn't too much to write home about. Now, the Jets could very frankly go, all right, we're not going to be competitive this year. We don't need to go and trade the house for a player who's going to immediately fix anything. And you can't trade for someone who also has a big contract, because then you're overpaying, and Lawson's got a monster $45 million deal to work through. So outside of Olivier Vernon, there aren't that many options, except for Derek Barnett. Barnett, okay, is the perfect player in this scenario. He's 24 years old. He's young, he's energetic, he fits the rebuilding process type mentality. He's also on a $10 million cap hit. Now, he did recently restructure, that has to be noted. He's still going to cost the Eagles a fair chunk, but the Jets have $17 million in cap space, and one of the few teams that could very frankly accommodate him without there being too much of a butterfly effect down the line. What this also means is the Jets could bring in Derek Barnett, get that 1 year out of him, and if he plays well, brilliant. They've got the money then to pay him a new deal and have him maybe replace Vinny Curry or be that edge 2 or edge 3 guy like he's been in Philadelphia. If he doesn't, it doesn't matter, and they've had someone young stand in for the injured Carl Lawson, who, as we know, was one of the best defensive ends when it came to quarterback pressures last year for Cincinnati. Now, I have been on the ban for trading Derek Barnett for quite some time, and that's only really expedited over the past few weeks, and it's through no fault of his own. He's apparently had a very good camp, but as has Josh Sweat. And had it not been for a Ryan Kerrigan hand injury, I don't think we'd be talking about him as frequently as we are. Now, Ryan Kerrigan, for context, had 5.5 sacks last year, the same total as Derek Barnett, on 11% fewer snaps, on a defensive line filled with absolutely elite potential at the position. Derek Barnett got those sacks on 11% more snaps on a defensive line where there really wasn't much depth behind him last year. And Ryan Kerrigan cost $3 million, okay? So you're going to get a player that is going to match what Derek Barnett gave you for a fraction of the cost. So you've negated what you've lost there. The other wildcard to bear in mind as to why the Eagles might finally be okay with letting go from Barnett here is that Milton Williams, through the preseason, the rookie defensive tackle, has been used frequently off the edge, and he has looked menacing. He is drawing flags, he's getting holding calls, he is a penetrative force in the backfield, he's had a couple of QB hits, he's looked really stellar with that ball rush, and there is so much power from what is a relatively skinny frame for a defensive tackle that moving him outside, having him in a hybrid role, creates so many mismatch problems for the offensive line to deal with. You take a surging Josh Sweat, you take a versatile Milton Williams, and you add in a veteran Ryan Kerrigan who can match what you've got in Barnett, and the Eagles, if they wanted to, I think, could maybe just say, hey, maybe Barnett isn't in our long-term plans right now. We can cash in, maybe get a mid to late round pick, whatever it might be, and move on. Take that $10 million and spend it at a position of need. Potentially look at some depth along the offensive line, which has been absolutely bullied over the course of the preseason. Or they could look at wide receiver. And the only reason I say this is because right now the Eagles are loaded with young and unproven talent, okay? It's fun. I love it. Devontae Smith is going to be a demon. We know Jalen Reagor is making strides. The rise of Quez Watkins has been excellent. But beyond that, you can assume maybe Greg Ward makes the roster, but Travis Fulgham's had a quiet camp. He's now apparently on the bubble, and JJ Arcega-Whiteside has largely been out of the picture, meaning that the Philadelphia Eagles will be without that big-bodied wideout that they've seemed to like, and they clearly do like them, especially Sirianni, because he's tried Travis Fulgham in the slot over the past couple of weeks of preseason. So that's intriguing. There's clearly a desire there to see how he looks working over the middle to create those mismatches and add more than just the speed demons that they've got on the outside at the moment. I present to you Denzel Mims, and I do it regrettably because I'm not a big Denzel Mims fan. I said before he even got drafted, I disagreed with everyone that wanted him in Philadelphia before he made those outrageous comments that I think his game was incredibly raw and Philadelphia wasn't the team to get the most out of him. I had Rager above Denzel Mims. I got criticized for it. I'm still not big on Denzel Mims, and in year number 2, he's been displaced by 3 off-season acquisitions, isn't having a great camp, isn't having a great preseason, and might be on the roster bubble. Now, if that is the case, if that is what's going on, what's the harm in giving up some assets, be Derek Barnett and a late round pick, maybe a couple of other things involved, for a player that is going to be cheap, is going to have 3 years left on his rookie deal, is going to come in as a low-risk, high-reward player for Aaron Moorhead to work with. We know what Aaron Moorhead can do. Eagles clearly trust him. He was one of the only 2 coaches they retained on the offensive side of the ball, and I think that should speak a lot of volumes. Now, he'd have a chance to develop away from the spotlight. He's not going to be the top receiver in that room. He's not going to be even close to it and can be allowed to just work under the radar, providing he doesn't make any more dodgy comments, and gradually get up to speed. Does this make sense logically? Yeah. Is it going to happen? I don't think the Jets are going to realistically call Howie Roseman and try and give up the house for Derek Barnett. I don't think, however, the Eagles would be too opposed to seeing what the Jets have in mind for him. If they do feel a need to fill that void, then I think he's going to be one of the best options available right now because of the upside he can bring long-term. If he performs, they can afford the contract. He's been productive, and it's going to, again, just give them a valuable edge rusher to start in Lawson's place. Now, you could look at the wide receiver room and target someone like Jamison Crowder. Wouldn't be opposed to it. Absolutely fine. This team, I feel like where they're at right now, I'd rather take upside. Mims has a ton of upside. He's just a bad route runner. And the one thing we've seen from Aaron Moorhead is that players are evolving as route runners, okay? Quez Watkins was atrocious last year. If you saw the filming I put up last week, you'll know that he barely get off the line without being smothered. This year he looks like a new man, and we're going to credit some of that to Aaron Moorhead and a wide receiver room filled with crisp route runners. And all of a sudden, this dynamic's changed, and I feel like the Eagles could be a place to develop Denzel Mims. Now, will this trade take place? I doubt it, in all honesty, but I've kind of talked myself into the idea of it being okay. A lot of people still like Derek Barnett. They want to hold on to the fact that he, gave them that iconic play in the Super Bowl. Fair enough, but at the end of the day, you're talking about a 4th-year player that has only just learned how to spin in a circle, hasn't offered very much, and Ryan Kerrigan gives you exactly the same, 70% cheaper. I know where I'm going to hedge my bets, and if I can save $10 million in the process of moving on from Derek Barnett, then I absolutely would. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Would you be interested in a move with the New York Jets? Which Jets player? They've got 2 second-round picks, bear in mind as well. Maybe it's an asset. Who would you want in return for the former first-round pick? Let me know, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Liam Jenkins. I'll see you next time.